For decades, the zombie was a strictly Western icon. It was a monster born from Hollywood's imagination, a metaphor for consumerism in the 70s or viral anxiety in the early 2000s. The genre felt like a closed circuit, dominated by American tropes of firepower and lone wolf survivalists. But in 2016, a South Korean director named Yoon Sang-ho released Train to Busan. It arrived like a lightning bolt, proving that a Korean Hallyu product could not only participate in a global genre, but fundamentally redefine it for a new generation. Today, we are evaluating Train to Busan as a pivotal social and cultural phenomenon. We are moving beyond a simple movie review to examine how this film challenged the Western monopoly on horror. We will analyze how it replaced the Western ideal of individualism with a deeply Korean sense of collectivism, and how it utilized the zombie outbreak as a surgical tool to critique the fractures in modern South Korean society. To understand this film is to understand why Korean content has transitioned from a niche interest to the most dominant cultural export of the 21st century. In a typical Hollywood zombie movie, the hero is often a survivalist, someone who succeeds because they are faster, stronger, or better armed than the weak masses. Train to Busan takes a radically different, more traditionally Korean approach. The protagonist, Sok-woo, played by the Hallyu icon Gong-gyu, begins the film as a cynical fund manager. He is a human embodiment of compressed modernity, the hyper-competitive, me-first nature of Korea's rapid economic growth. His first instinct when the crisis hits is to close the train door on others to save himself and his daughter. In a Western narrative, this cold pragmatism might be framed as doing what is necessary. But in the context of Korean collectivism, Sok-woo's selfishness is portrayed as a profound moral failing. The narrative doesn't just show a zombie fight, it shows moral correction. Through his interaction with the working-class hero Sang-hwa, Sok-woo is forced to confront the reality that survival is a communal responsibility. This is where we see the masterful use of shinpa, a uniquely Korean style of cinematic melodrama that emphasizes heightened emotion and intense familial bonds to create a deep sense of empathy and catharsis in the audience. While some Western critics find the high emotion and melodrama of Korean cinema to be quote-unquote too much, in Train to Busan it serves a vital purpose. It provides the emotional catharsis required for a selfish man to become a selfless one. By the time we reach the climax, the man who once looked down on others is sacrificing his life for a mere stranger. This emphasis on filial piety and communal sacrifice is what separates this film from its Western counterparts, giving it a human heart that resonates across cultural borders. Beyond the characters, the setting itself is a masterclass in social commentary. The KTX high-speed train is a symbol of Korea's modern success, a sleek, fast, and efficient technological marvel. But inside this miracle, we see a society under extreme pressure. The film acts as a direct critique of class stratification and the power elite. This is best personified by the villain Yeon, a bus company executive. He doesn't have a gun or a sword. Instead, he uses his social status and fear-mongering to turn passengers against one another. For Korean viewers in 2016, this wasn't just horror fiction. The government's scripted announcements over the train speakers telling passengers to stay put while the world falls apart were painful, direct references to Sewol Ferry tragedy of 2014, where the failure of the elite led to the deaths of hundreds of students. The film suggests that the zombie isn't the only monster. The real horror is a rigid social hierarchy that protects the wealthy at the expense of the vulnerable. This analytical depth is why the film achieved such high domestic and international acclaim. It utilized a global genre to speak a very specific local truth about Korean institutional distrust. So what is the lasting legacy of this film in the Hallyu way? Train to Busan was the bridge between Korean Wave 1.0 which was mostly regional K-dramas, and Hallyu 4.0, the global juggernaut we see today. It proved that South Korean studios could achieve excellent production value, competing with Hollywood's hundreds of millions of dollars of budget for a fraction of the cost. More importantly, it established the K-zombie as its own subgenre. Without the success of this film, we wouldn't have the global Netflix hits like Kingdom or All of Us Are Dead. The film proved that global audiences were ready for stories that weren't just about action, but were about action with a soul. By 2026, Hallyu has become a multi-billion-dollar pillar of the Korean economy. It was films like Train to Busan that broke down the final barrier of the 1-inch tall subtitles, proving that a story rooted in local Korean pain and social structures could become a universal human experience. It challenged the Western monopoly by being unapologetically Korean, and in doing so, it changed the face of global cinema forever. In the end, Train to Busan is more than just a ride. It is a critique of where society has been and a warning about where it is going. It redefined a genre, challenged a monopoly, and cemented Korea's place as a global storytelling powerhouse.